Good morning, everybody. What a great experience to speak in front of 300 people and beside the keynote. For me, it's fantastic, and thank you very much that you joined my session instead of the keynote over there. So my name is Patrick Mosimann, and I will be your host for this hour. And initially, you saw probably the Slido, which was up and running. I will use that later on again. So if you like, you can still join the question. And they told me maybe it's a little bit noisy inside, there would be some headphones over there. If you need them, just grab them. But I try to speak loud as well. And if something is not clear, just raise your hand and I try to fix it. So probably, if you saw the title, it's probably the longest title in the session catalog. And yeah, they told me maybe I need to shorten that. So if you have any idea, you can reach out to me after the session, and I'm happy to change the title afterwards. So for this hour, I will start first with a short introduction, and then I'm going into the use cases. First of all, I will talk on onboarding, fabric in a box, or switches anyhow connected on SD-WAN routers. There are some caveats. Then afterwards, I will talk on connecting Flex Connect APIs to edge nodes with .1x. And then last but not least, we'll cover some CLI template handling, options which maybe could be handy for your deployment as well. And at the end, I will conclude the session. Probably you saw that slide already. You know what you can use it. I will monitor WebEx after the session as well. If you have comments, feedback, questions, you can use WebEx. Short information about myself. I'm now at Cisco since 7 years, work for a customer, partner, competitor, and beside working, I love to take pictures from the Swiss mountain as an example, but combining that with traveling as well. So why this session? Was too fast. Everything started years ago in Barcelona with these two guys. Both of them working with customers as well, and we figured out why not use our experience, what we did initially with other customers, to inform you as well. And then every year we had additional use cases in there. Initially it was we need to prove that SDA works as well. Then we went up to the mountain, to the Matterhorn in Switzerland, with every small steps to the top. Then that was the virtual one. And this year is all in with Cisco SD Access at scale. I'm using the following scenario throughout my presentation. So it's a high-level design, which I'm sharing over here. I named the customer It's Best Corporation. They have a lot of sites, hundreds of sites, and at the moment they have a WAN service from a service provider using layer 2 switches in there, APIs with Flex Connect, which are connected to the data center. The goal of the customer is the reduction of the individual configuration solution as well. There are multiple people working for the same customers, and they ask for standardization with software-defined technologies. So maybe that sounds familiar, and so I thought I need something to visualize that topic as well, that one thing which you need to take with you when you leave that room or this session. So I reached out to my peers, colleagues, and asked them, what would be the right picture for this project goal? I got multiple of ideas, but I wasn't really happy about it. So I thought, there is a new tool out of the market. Why not ask ChatGPT on this question? Give me an analogy on this project goal. And funny thing is, it took me a few seconds, and he gave me this answer, like standardization is kind of using Legos. You can build something together and then use it for other, like blueprints, I would say. And that's the reason why I came up now with this picture with the Legos. So that's the only thing which you need to take out from this session. A box of Lego, you can build your own network together. It's standardized because every Lego stone has the same functionality and you can plug them each together. But for IT's Best Corporation, we decided to use the following high-level design for the future network. So we are using SD-WAN as an overlay technology because it brings the benefit of segmentation as well, and as well provider independency. So you can use internet or MPLS, every connection which you like, and you can do the segmentation on top of that. And an additional benefit for the customer was to get the layer 3 boundary back for their configuration as well. Because in the past, service provider was doing all the layer 3 configuration, and they just had the layer 2 switches connected to that. Connected to the SD-WAN, they decided to go for SD-Access because it's simple, it's standardized, and they can do the segmentation on top of that as well. From a wireless point of view, because there are so many sites in there, they decided to keep their existing environment with Flex Connect. So they are using Flex Connect over the top for SD-Access as well. In that scenario, with just the fabric in a box and extended node, there is no issue with roaming. If they would use additional edge switches in there, then probably the roaming wouldn't be the best. And the other option would then be to go back and use embedded wireless LAN controller as an example on the switch itself. From a scenario point of view, first of all, I will go through day 0. There are some caveats onboarding fabric in a box switches connected to SD-WAN. Then I will share how to connect Flex Connect APs because they had the requirement as well to improve security with identity-based networking. And last but not least, as I mentioned, some operation task with CLI template. So let's double click on the first use case. Cisco SD-WAN is a great overlay technology because you can use multiple VPNs. And even one VPN we use for the underlay connection and onboarding of the fabric devices. And the goal as well is to onboard this fabric in a box automatically, so no one needs to really configure the switch itself, which then has been connected to the SD-WAN. So that's the reason why to use plug and play as an example. And we came up to define a workflow that someone like an operator or on-site engineer just needs to power on the SD-WAN router itself. It reaches out to vManage together. I simplified that. There would be vBond as well. And then afterwards, in vManage, they just attach the device template. The configuration gets pushed, and afterwards, as soon as the SD-WAN overlay is up and running, they just enable the switch itself. The switch itself gets an IP address and connects to the DNA center. So that's the workflow, the initial workflow, and then afterwards, the switch gets the CLI configuration. That's the pure plug-and-play options there. And the configuration is up and running on the switch. Afterwards, if you go one further, We need to provision the switch in DNA center. The configuration gets pushed again, and then afterwards, as soon as we add the switch to the fabric, we do the layer 3 handoff, like the point-to-point links in there with BGP, and the configuration gets pushed again, and BGP session is up and running. So that's the theory behind it. Now let's go back to what are some caveats. Maybe, not sure, who of you is already familiar with plug and play and the options? I see some of the hands in the room. So let me explain the options which we have. So option 1, that's probably the default option or the most used option, means we have a parent switch that's on the left side. The switch port is in switch port mode access, and the new switch, the plug and play switch itself, will send out the DHCP request in VLAN 1 as well as an access interface. Then another option would be to use a trunk port uplink, and for that there is a command needed on the parent switch itself. It's called PMP startup VLAN, and this information will be sent via CDP to the new switch which is connected to the parent switch itself. And in my example, I'm using VLAN 20 and have a switch port trunk as a downlink port. So this information will be sent via CDP to the new switch, and the switch will configure itself interface VLAN 20 where it sends the DHCP request from. And that's probably the best option for a use case where afterwards we need additional interfaces there to do the BGP point-to-point links, and I will come later on that. And another option would be to use the out-of-band management port on a catalyst switch, normally on the back side of the switch itself, which is in the management VRF. And there it could be on the uplink side, could be a switch port mode access as well. And there is one caveat which I just come in. The management port itself is not, we can't use that management port from a DNS center point of view if we are using SD access afterwards, because the configuration needs to be inline. So that's a limitation from an SD access point of view. So that's the reason why option 3 is not possible to use. And on the other side, as I mentioned before, the best way would be to use the PMP startup VLAN, but at the moment, this option is not fully supported on the SD-WAN router itself, because it's not in the qualified command list of the CLI add-on template. Means if you would like to use that, it's not a supported scenario, so that option was not an option for my customer as well. So for the first one, with the PMP startup VLAN, we raised the feature request. Maybe someone in the future we will get that feature in there or get the command supported, and then we can use that right away. So let me share how we overcome this problem with the plug and play. That I need to share that one. Okay. Okay. So I tried to do a live demo, but the first time it failed. So let's go back to my recorded one then and try to fix that later on. Okay, so first of all, I'm in the DNA center, and I'm going to plug and play. And there I need to claim the switch itself. So that's the first thing which I'm normally doing, assigning a site to it. And based on that, I'm getting the CLI template, which I'm sharing afterwards, what's in there. I have additional parameters options in there, which I'm able to import as well from a CSV file. So like name, IP address, and so on. I'm using an onboarding VLAN, in my case VLAN 20. Now I'm claiming the switch, and in the meantime, until the switch gets online, it takes some minutes. I will share the CLI template itself. So the important thing is in the down part there with the event manager script. So I'm using an event manager script to reconfigure the switch itself. In that case, I will trigger the event manager script after 2 minutes. As soon as the configuration is attached to the switch itself, it waits 2 minutes, and then it reconfigures the uplink port from an access port to a trunk port, and I'm reconfiguring the DHCP interface, the VLAN 20 interface, with the fixed IP address, because the customer would like to have fixed IP address as a connection to the switch itself. And then afterwards, I'm removing the script itself. Maybe you ask yourself, why do I need to use this event manager script, and why not just change the configuration on the fly via the plug-and-play configuration itself? The problem is the following. As soon as I would change or reconfigure the uplink port, the switch itself loses the connection to the DNA center. And during the plug-and-play configuration, if I'm losing the connection to the DNA center, the switch will do a rollback of the configuration because it thinks something is wrong. So that's the reason why I'm using this event manager script itself. So it's in the slides afterwards if you would like to use that in your environment as well. So I will continue that. Let's go forward. So now I'm just connected to the console of the switch itself. So I will disable console logging to remove the noise of the console output. And then I'm doing a show run VLAN 1, and you see it's still there. So the configuration has been pushed, but the event manager script hasn't triggered yet. So the script is still there, and as the last step, I would remove that. See, it's the VLAN 1 was in there. And the loopback interface is already there. That's important because the DNA center will use that IP address afterwards to manage the switch automatically. So there is afterwards no need to change this IP address, this management IP address in the DNA center itself. The uplink port is still a default port, so means no configuration on it. So it would be an access port. And now need to wait until the script gets triggered. Let's do a rerun. It's still there. Just takes a few seconds, and then check if the VLAN is already there. So no VLAN 20. So that will be added via the event manager script as well. So now the interface has been configured. The switch is up and running, and we can move forward back to the DNA center. You can see it's a trunk port now. And when we go back to the DNS center, the device has been claimed, and then we can go over to the inventory as well. Okay. Next step would be to provision the switch, because that's necessary to add the additional configuration from the site, and afterwards I can add the switch to the fabric. So do the provisioning. And now I will add the switch to the fabric itself. So the switch is already in the hierarchy there. Just enable the border node, control plane node, and edge node. Do the layer 3 handoff. For that, I need the BGP OS area. And need to select the interface which I just configured before to do the point-to-point links. So now you see the reason why we need a trunk as an uplink, because we need to configure for every VRF or virtual network, we need to configure point-to-point link, where I'm using the VLAN IDs from 3001 until 3003, but in the meantime, it's fully customized. Then I need to select which type of fabric I would like to use. I'm using list pops up. That's it. Switch is up and running afterwards, and clients can be connected to the network. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. So for the conclusion, I was using plug and play with Access VLAN 1. It needs to have a static route on the C edge itself, which points through towards the loopback 0, because initially we do not have any routing protocol up and running on the switch itself, and I was using the event manager script itself to reconfigure the uplink port to get the trunk port and added the IP interface to it. For the next use case, so the fabric is up and running. Now I need to connect access points to the switch itself. And as I mentioned, customer was asking for additional security in there. And as well, it's much easier to have every single access port configured the same way, with closed authentication as an example, that each device which will be connected to the switch itself will be connected to the right network based on username, password, certificate, or MAC address itself. So the customer decided to use Flex Connect, which has additional impact on the port requirements as well. Maybe you know that we do not support authentication on trunk ports. So there is the need to do a reconfiguration of the port itself. Just as a reference, for those of you not aware of Flex Connect over the top, means we are using the COP-WAP tunnel, which is transported over the top of the fabric, and in our case, on top of the SD-WAN or inside of the SD-WAN tunnel as well. And the configuration itself is not automated from an SD-Access workflow perspective, but with CLI templates, it's possible to configure the port itself as well. So the goal is to connect the access point to the switch itself, the port, the The native port itself will be the management port for the AP, and on top of that, we need to create a trunk port for the SSIDs which are running on the access point itself. Who of you is familiar with interface templates? Say a few hands. So let me explain how interface templates are working, because that's what we are using to overcome the limitation with the trunk port and authentication of it. In initial state, when I connect a device, in my case, it's a switch itself, it's the AP itself to the switch. The port is not authenticated, so means the access point will send authentication message to the switch, and the switch will forward the message to ICE in my case. And on the left side, you see the configuration, which is before the access point gets authenticated. And on the ICE, I have an authorization policy, which is sending the interface template name to the switch. And with this interface template, I will reconfigure the switch port, and the access point goes online. Yes?
On the access point default, is this applicant active already, or do I have to activate it somehow via configuration?
Okay. The question was on the access point, if the supplicant is already active or not. And the point is, it's not active, but I will share how you can activate that from the DNA center in an easy way. I highlighted one point on the interface configuration, which is really important, which I missed in the first phase. It's the access session host mode multi-host. Who of you knows what this means? Okay, it's almost similar with the interface template. So host mode, multi-host mode, initially I hadn't that on it, so I created a slide for that as well. The access point gets authenticated, everything was fine, but then I got the message from the customer, now each client needs to authenticate twice. And we thought, huh? Why need the client to authenticate twice? Something is wrong. Then, the client authenticated first with the access point, with the SSID, and then afterwards on the switch port again. And to overcome that, we can use the host mode, multi-host mode. Means only the first address gets authenticated, and then everything else will be allowed. And as we are using a trunk port, it doesn't matter, the clients are automatically in the right VLAN, because the wireless LAN or the SSID is mapped to the VLAN itself. If there would be a switch, then it's differently. Then it's probably in the same VLAN. So the default mode normally would be the one on the right side, on the downside. So each MAC address or each device gets authenticated. Normally one voice device is possible, and then as many as data devices as well. Single host would mean only the first MAC address gets authenticated, the rest gets blocked, and the multi-domain would mean one data, one voice. And as I mentioned, multi-host mode is the one which we are using there. Okay, let me share how we can enable. First thing would be authentication on the access point itself in regards to the question just before, and then afterwards what we have done in ICE. So let's see if my connection is back. Doesn't look like. Okay. need to stick to the demo as well. Oh. Sorry for that. So we are in the DNA center again, and the access point has reached the DNA center via plug and play. I see you're not so happy yet. So first of all, I will claim the AP. So I can give a name in there, assign it to the right side, and need to select the wireless profile. So an AP always needs to be assigned to a floor. And it's normal to get an error because the radio frequency profile has not been selected. And now we can see I did in the settings, network settings, it's possible to select the authentication method for the AP itself. By default, there is no authentication selected. Just after claiming, because it takes some time, I will share where to enable that in DNA Center as well. So that's part of design, network settings, and then wireless. So we have all the SSIDs configuration on top, and we need to scroll down. And as I mentioned, default mode would be no authentication. You can use eTLS as an example. DNA Center then will be the PKI for the network device or for the AP. Even we could do external PKI. In my case, I'm just using EPIP with username password. So next I will switch over to ICE, because first thing, the AP needs to reach the DNA Center. And for that, I created the authorization policy based on profiling. So if ICE sees, okay, it's an AP, I will assign the VLAN for the AP itself. And in addition to that, I'm adding a downloadable ACL as well to limit the access for the AP. So it just gets an IP address and can reach DNA Center and the wireless LAN controller. The rest is blocked. So let's go to the policy results, what I mentioned before. So I first created authentication or an authorization profile for MAC authentication bypass, which just gets as well an interface template, and I added the downloadable ACL there. And down there, maybe it's a little bit small. Let me see, yeah, over there. It's a default profile, or it's a profile which DNA Center configures in the SD access part. And then I created a profile full access. That's the one with just the interface template on it. Yeah. Just to explain afterwards how the interface looks like with the default one, and in my case I need a special one with Flex. So I just created my custom Flex AP custom interface template. That's the one which I would like to assign. As well, the policy. Pause over there. So if the AP is if the AP user is part of the Flex AP group, it will assign the Flex AP profile, and if it's part of the AP group down there, it will get the normal profile. Now it's possible to use both either Flex or just the AP profile. Okay, let's go forward. So we'll select connected devices. So the AP itself has been authenticated with the full access. And now I would like to share how the configuration looks like before I assign my custom interface template. And for that, I'm going back to DNA Center, selecting the switch itself. And I will use command runner. Oops. So over there. Of the interface itself, just to share how the configuration looks like. So I got the AP authorization template. That's the default option. And the configuration, just to compare how it changed. So it's still a switchboard access VLAN. And then I will switch over to move the AP itself to the Flex group to share afterwards how the configuration changed. For that, I'm moving the AP from the AP group to the Flex AP group, which I created. Now I need to re-authenticate the AP that the new interface template gets active. For that, I just terminate the session in ICE. Authentication is still running. It takes some seconds afterwards. Need to rerun that again. It's still running. Now, .1x was not working initially, so the AP just selected the MAC authentication bypass again. So I just selected again the authentication to terminate again. So now this time it worked, and I got my Flex AP custom interface template. I think initially it was because the interface template was not on the switch yet. So I didn't provision the switch, and if the interface template is not there, then the authentication failed. So let's check the configuration. You can see I added the description with Flex AP. And now I get the trunk VLAN in there, and I added allowed VLAN as well. So now you can connect a Flex Connect AP with authentication to a switch port, either with SD access or even without. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So I added the interface template in there. So what we did, I authenticated the access point, in my case with .1x. If you are happy with my MAC authentication bypass and you are not that concerned on security, you can use MAB as well. You can use certificate or username password, both works, and just need to return the interface template itself. And important, the interface template needs to be deployed first on the switch itself, that it can be assigned to the port. And maybe you saw in the demo you can run show derived configuration, and then you will see the configuration which is really on the port itself. If you just do a show run, it's still the default configuration on it. And the good thing as well is if you remove the AP, the configuration is gone as well, and the port is in default mode again. And if you attach a client to it, the client needs to authenticate as well. So now, I even have a bonus use case. We did the switch, we did the AP. Now we even can do the same with the switch itself. Initially, I shared you the topology or the blueprint with the fabric in a box and extended nodes on it. Since 2.3.3, we are supporting supplicant-based extended nodes. So it's the same as I shared just before with the AP. We can a switch can authenticate as well, and we send from the DNS from ICE. We will send an interface template as well. So the same use case, and as well first with the limited access with MAC authentication bypass, and DNS Center will just configure the extended node as a supplicant. There we are using the certificate. So DNS Center just creates the certificate and pushes it to the policy extended node. And then afterwards, the switch itself gets authenticated via .1x. And it's just a simple click in the UI. We would like to enable supplicant-based extended node, and everything, even the interface template, will be pushed down from an SD-Access workflow itself. The benefit there, which I see, is as well, every switch port has still the same configuration. I don't need to select on which switch port I would like to attach an additional access switch to it. Just put the access switch on it, boot it up, and the DNS Center configures everything automatically. Same way as with the access point. Next use case is around CLI template handling. First of all, in DNS Center, when that's a kind of a site, a branch side of the customer itself, it's switch 101, switch 102, switch 201, and I have no clue which switch is really the fabric in a box and which one is the policy extended node. And that's maybe helpful if I just see in the inventory which device is which. And on the other side, we needed to add some additional configuration in it. As an example, we had to add DHCP snooping on the extended nodes, which is not needed on the fabric in a box because it was there already. And on the other side, we did some BGP tweaking on the fabric in a box, which is not needed on the policy extended node. So for that, we just created two CLI templates. One we called day N, the other one we called fabric in a box. One we called policy extended nodes day N, and one fabric in a box day N. And normally we can select a CLI template based on a switch model, but if we would have both the same switch model, then we couldn't decide which template should be assigned. And for that, we can use tags in DNS Center. And I prepared a demo as well. Just need to open the right one. Okay. So let's move over to the site, to the inventory. So I just assigned on one switch itself the fabric in a box tag, and on the other one the policy extended node tag. And now I just onboarded a new switch, which doesn't have the tag yet. So I just search for the right one and I assign the tag. So first, we now have the overview inventory, which one is a fabric in a box, which one is a policy extended node. And then afterwards, just sharing the two different templates. So for that, I'm going in template editor. So I have my fabric in a box template and my policy extended template, which are different. So one just has the template, the interface template on it, and some additional configuration. And the other one has the DHCP snooping in, which I mentioned just before. Now to assign a CLI template, I need to create a network profile. So I assign the network profile to my sites, and now I'm just adding the CLI templates to it. And there we have the options to tag or to use the tag which I defined just before. So I'm using the fabric in a box one and the policy extended node for the other one. Now I'm going back to provision, to the inventory, and then I will select all the switches. So the first, the fabric in a box, policy extended node, and the other fabric in a box. I do provision, and now we can see that's the overview. And now we can see the policy extended node has been added, the template to the policy extended node, and the other one to the fabric in a box. So I have two fabric in a box in there and one policy extended node. Okay. So let's move back to the presentation then. That works. Okay. To summarize the template handling, so created the device tag and assigned the device tag to the network devices. And then afterwards, we have been able to select the corresponding configuration, added that to the network profile. And during provisioning, we have seen the distinguish between the two interface, the two CLI templates afterwards. So now, initially, I had this Slido up and running. And I mentioned that I will share the results as well. Show results. So we have seen it was a close running between 3 or more time and first time. So it's on the one side and on the other side. And yeah, that's interesting for me as well. And on the other side, maybe now I would like to know from your side who was really using SDXs already. So if you have your smartphone, please take it out as well. It's a close run now between 50-50. Even now it's additional in there. None of both is there as well. Okay, and after that, I still see some user attendees connecting. Next one, which I would like to see, which of the use case have been most interesting for you? So first would be the onboarding of the fabric in a box connected to the edge nodes with plug and play, Flex Connect, and the end CLI template handling. Okay, I see Flex Connect API connected to edge nodes is in the lead. And then with onboarding fabric in a box to CH and plug and play. And I see the CLI template handling was the least interesting. Okay, still users are connecting, but probably nothing will change again, huh? Okay. Thank you for that. And then moving back to the presentation. Take some time. Okay. So let me conclude the session. And I have even some asks in there for you as well. So first, we did the fabric in a box one, the onboarding with plug and play. So there, I was using the event manager script because of the limitation on CH to use the PMP startup VLAN. So if we get that feature in, the event manager script is not needed. But maybe there is another use case where you need to reconfigure something during plug and play. Then you could consider to use the event manager script. Afterwards, I shared how to connect the Flex Connect API with .1x. And last but not least was the CLI template handling. Maybe, do you remember the picture which I shared with you, which you should take home with you? The Lego. I still have it in there, again, to remember. And my goal was to keep from these busy Lego blocks to these well-sorted Legos in there. So we have a blueprint which we can repeat for multiple sites itself. And with that, I shared SDXs can even scale for multiple sites. We have ways to automate that, to standardize, to achieve the requirements of the customer, to simplify the network, and to standardize as well. I would like to remember you to complete the surveys. And if you like the session, I would be happy to get the 5 from you itself, because I'm working for a US company, and surveys are really important. So please keep these few seconds, just rate my session. And I would ask to continue your education as well. You can book one-to-one, meet the engineers with me as well. And if you have been interested how to build these fabric sites, tomorrow I will share how to even automate that with Terraform, how to standardize the configuration for each site, that we don't need to do it manually via UI in DNA Center, how you can leverage infrastructure as a code. It will be tomorrow at 1:30, and it would be great if you would join again. So now it's time to say thank you, and I wish you a wonderful day.